I decided to do digital media because more or less of the influence of African American art history. One of the people I draw a lot of inspiration from is James Vanderzee. He was a photographer back during the Harlem Renaissance. He did a lot of picture and photo editing, but he did it in a whole different new way. It was very innovative of his time. So what I do is I kind of draw that inspiration and I use it in a more new school kind of way is how I like to describe it. I've been doing art essentially like my whole life, ever since I was a kid. I've always loved art. I mean, I've never really ever stopped. I mean, people have told me to, but it's what I like to do. Growing up, I mean, a lot of people kind of tell you that art really isn't, your path. It's not what's going to make you money in the future. Thankfully, I've had a very supportive a mother who really pushed me to do whatever I wanted. She's just like, whatever makes you happy, go for it, as long as you're happy and you can see yourself doing it for the long run. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how much money you make. It's about whether or not you're happy doing what you do for the rest of your life. On occasion, I do get people that want to purchase my artwork. It all varies and depends on how much time or material that gets put into the artwork itself. It's a huge spectrum. It can go anywhere from like $10 to whatever it all depends on the size of the work and the material and the time and the effort put into it. I would say my artwork is inspired by a lot of African American artists. One primarily being Jean-Michel Basquiat. I really enjoy the way he paints, the way he embodies a sense of innocence in his work. One quote that I believe he said, he pretty much was just like, it was crazy because people don't think I can draw. Because his work is very childish, because the way he paints very loose strokes, and it's not anything that's very uniform. One of my favorite pieces of work that I did was actually an ode to him. I called it an ode to John. It was a canvas painting I did with acrylic paint, and it was a hand-stretched canvas. And it was fairly big. It was like 30 by 40. What I essentially did was I used kind of like his technique in painting, and I created a portrait of him in the middle, and I added a bunch of different patterns and marks and words, a lot of like the stuff that he uses in his paintings. With me, my art is definitely a reflection of self. It definitely helps me vent a lot of times when I'm frustrated or have things on my mind or something's bothering me. I usually do work on art, and it definitely is a way of coping. It's a very big coping method, I will say, and a lot of people actually do that. With my art, for the most part, it's more or less an inspiration. It's never anything that I just do off of impulse. It's more or less like if I'm watching TV, or if I'm out on the street walking around, or if I'm hanging out with some friends, if something comes up and that like sparks my interest, or something that I do gets my brain going, then I kind of run with it. A lot of my inspiration does come from history. I do enjoy creating work that has to do with the past as well as the present and how they are interchangeable. What I want people to get out of Reception Night is an understanding of my artwork. Pretty much what my general theme is slavery. We were all once slaves, but now we still are. We've never really stopped being slaves. But instead of being slaves to other people, now we're slaves to material. We're slaves to the chains, slaves to the whips and the chains and everything like that. I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand. Whips and chains is synonymous with whips and chains. J. Cole once said that. But it's like, we are vanity slaves, essentially. We really fiend. We really, push to be something that we're really not. We really try to be accepted. And it's really more or less about trying to have the nicest clothes, trying to be the flyest guy on campus, trying to look the best. But at the end of the day, we're just forcing ourselves to be who we are really not. And that's what I really want people to get out of this, is the fact that we're still slaves, but it's all here now. It's no longer chains.